Hello, thank you for joining us. This is Talking Europe on France 24. I'm Catherine Nicholson with our very first programme after the 2019 European Parliament election. Now, around 200 million votes were cast in 28 countries, all electing 751 members of the only directly elected body of the European Union. On today's debate, we will be combing over the results, sorting out the winners from the spinners. Our panel today, Bas Eickhout, a Dutch MEP, joint lead candidate as well for the European Greens. Hello there.
Good morning.
Next to you, Paul Rübig, who is an Austrian MEP with the OVP, or the Austrian People's Party, part of the centre-right European People's Party group, which took the biggest single vote share in the Parliament. Hello.
Morning.
Hello, good morning. And across the other side of the table, we have Mark Betenga, the first ever MEP from the Belgian Workers' Party, or BTP, who'll be joining the far-left group in the Parliament.
Good morning.
Well, thank you all very much for being with us. We're going to start with a recap of some of the main takeaways from election night on May 26th.
The centre-right bloc, the European People's Party, remains the largest in the European Parliament. Its leader, Germany's Manfred Weber, is a long-standing MEP. He sees the election result as a springboard to becoming EU Commission President.
One message is crystal clear. We will not work together with those who don't believe in Europe, with those who want to destroy Europe. The Europe of today is our Europe. It's a Europe of EPP, of the Christian Democrats, and we will defend this Europe against the nationalists. That is what we will do.
The second largest bloc is the Party of European Socialists, led by Frans Timmermans of the Netherlands. He is also eyeing the EU Commission President job to replace Luxembourg's Jean-Claude Juncker, who is leaving the post this autumn. The race now for the job will be affected by a new configuration in Parliament as the EPP and PES lose their grip.
They remain the main parties, but they no longer have an absolute majority. They're obliged to seek allies. The ones most likely are the alliance of Liberals and Democrats and the Greens. Both have clearly gained support and can claim the right to have a say.
The alliance of Liberals and Democrats is led by Guy Verhofstadt of Belgium. Its candidate for the top job is Margrethe Vestager of Denmark. There was a green wave in this election, as the urgency to combat global warming now tops many people's concerns. They could be kingmakers. Far-right nationalist and populist parties, from France to Hungary, are a strong presence but are not working to the same song sheet. The fragmentation of power in this new parliament means choosing the next president of the European Commission is likely to be up for negotiation.
And just before we start our debate, I want to say that we did contact members of all of the political groups in the European Parliament, but for various scheduling reasons, certain members of different groups weren't able to join us. However, I think we've got quite a good spread around the political spectrum here today. So, gentlemen, let's start off with the idea that President Macron brought up before this election was that it's a clash between what he called progressives and populists. It ended up, of course, quite a lot more complex than that. Everybody claiming victory. Bas Eickhout, perhaps come to you first. Who's the winner? A lot of people saying your group, perhaps.
Well, I think certainly the Greens won, but I also think that the entire idea that these elections were about a clash between the ones against Europe and in favour of Europe was never a good idea, to be very honest, because the people that are voting for Europe, they have difference of opinions of which direction Europe should be going. I think a vast majority of the Europeans are still in favour of European cooperation, but they have different ideas how to do that. And I think that should be the campaign. That's at least where the Greens run their campaign on. We are very pro-Europe, but at the same time we want a different Europe. And I think that message really came across very strongly as well. And I think that was partly an explanation of our success. Instead of this campaign, you're either for or against. I don't think that was wise.
Well, Mr. Rübig, your group, the European People's Party, still, as I said, the biggest single group on number of MEPs in the Parliament, but it's had quite a big bunch of losses. Did your parties perhaps take the wrong track, misunderstand the mood of the electorate?
I had good luck because I'm from Austria and we had 8% plus, so we're a winning party in Austria. And with our Chancellor Kurz, we know that we had a strong campaign, especially for the people who are doing the daily work. So the fight for working people was very important for
Well,
us.
perhaps as well, it was boosted by the scandal within your former coalition party with this video with Mr. Strache, the former vice-chancellor as well. That surely boosted your score.
Yes, and it was really painful for us to be with a partner who has such a strong attitude into the direction of corruption. And so I think it was a clear message to go out of this coalition and find a new opportunity in new elections. And I think the people now can show who would be the best party in this area. And it's also on European level. I'm very happy that Manfred Weber was elected from us in the EPP group. Now he is clearly number one. And with the Spitzenkandidat, we will see that this will go forward.
Can I ask a question? Because Manfred Weber very clearly said, we are not going to work together with the populists that want to destroy Europe. But you did it in Austria. Is this something that you learn from and say, we're not going to do that again? Or how is that opinion now in Austria?
You know, it always depends on the people who were in government in Austria. We had a very good
but they have strange ideas. They are against Europe. They want to destroy Europe. So why would you work with them?
You know, they had a coalition, and it was clear, an agreement that they will stay on democratic principles, that they will stay on the rule of law. It was an agreement which was done also before from the socialists. So it's not only a way that we did it, and now also the socialists are now together with the Freedom Party, the FPÖ. They now asking for new elections, and they dismissed our chancellor. So we have a new coalition in Austria between socialists and the radical Freedom Party.
So No, I think there's something which we need to acknowledge, which is that as the way Macron presented it, of either us or the far right, is totally wrong, because if he comes through with his plans for a Europe of more competition, more austerity, then the far right will grow. Because what we have felt, I mean, in Belgium, but in other countries as well, is that people are afraid. They're afraid for their pensions, for their future. And then, you know, you foster this fear through what? Through the policies and the treaties we have currently. So if we go on Macron's way, if we go on this way of, you know, we've done great, let's continue, then the far right will be even stronger and they will continue to grow. So we need to acknowledge that they're not opposing themselves, but in a way, Macron is fostering, is nurturing the far right. And this is an extremely dangerous development we've seen in Belgium as well, you know, where we have had, you know, traditional parties saying, we are blocking the far right, but basically rather than blocking them, they've been a bridge for the far right. You know, this is what we've been seeing. And to this, we need to have a very clear social alternative that breaks with the current logic.
All right, well, I'd like to play a soundbite from the lead candidate of the Rassemblement National, formerly National Front in France, the party led by Marine Le Pen. So we've got Jordan Bardella. He was speaking on election night, May 26, when his list came out just about 1 percentage point ahead of President Macron's list.
It isn't only Macron's politics or his person that have been rejected today. It's also the European Union, which defended the President of the Republic. The EU can no longer ignore people's hopes for security, freedom and sovereignty. It must therefore radically realign its political, social and migratory policies.
Jordan Bardella speaking on Sunday, May 26th. If I come back to you, Mr. Rubig, that talk of the EU having to radically realign its political, social, migratory policies. The EPP has been really leading European Commission policy, of course, for the last 5 years. Is a radical realignment on the cards? Is there going to be a big rethink?
I think Macron is the right target. You know, only with competition and good income for the workers and for the people who do the daily service for us, and if we lower the taxation on them, that would help us to be very social. Because only if you have people who are working and earning money and paying tax, then you can be social.
I don't think you can do fact-free politics. You know, I mean, we need to be very honest. There's today 113 million people in Europe, either at risk of poverty or social exclusion. This is a consequence. No, but this is a consequence of 25 years of EPP government.
We are in favor of the
years. At some
taxpayers.
point, you need to take responsibility for what you've done. The result today, politically and socially in Europe, is a disaster. You know, and you can see it. Even the far right now pretends to be social. We know this is a lie. We've seen them here in Parliament vote consistently against any social policy proposed, consistently. But you went into government with them, and EPP policies, and not only EPP policies, the Liberals have contributed to this, the Social Democrats have contributed to this, they have fostered this. So if we don't break with this, and if we don't give a concrete answer to pensions, to social worries, and hence public investment in our hospitals, in our social services, rather than liberalize and privatize.
What my government has done, we reduced the taxation for the people who really do the work. And that was very warm welcome, and that was the increase of 8% of our political group.
Have you made multinationals pay?
For us.
Have you made multinationals pay? Is there a wealth tax? Can we finally, in this Europe of inequalities, make the wealthy pay? Make those like multinationals that do not pay any tax at all very often, can we make them pay,
That's like Council Group, the Greens, apart from speaking about climate, you have some sometimes quite radical positions on multinationals and things, but then other times accused of being economically liberal as well in some areas, or wanting to keep the same system that we currently have. In a sense.
I don't think so. I think we're very clear. We've been very clear throughout the campaign by making very clear that if in the new Europe the polluter is not going to pay, if we are not going to tackle the inequality that we see rising in Europe, if we are not going to make sure that multinationals are not being able again to dodge all the taxation, we will have a tremendous problem with the future of Europe. Any future Europe must be a social Europe. And we've been very clear campaigning, yes, we are for green transition, but any green transition needs to be socially just. And that is the big challenge for Europe. And that is, I fully agree, I think that's why a lot of people are disappointed by the EU, because they feel that social protection has gone down and at the expense of, you know, multinationals who pay less and less taxation. I think that inequality needs to be addressed, otherwise people will turn away from Europe.
Well, obviously the Greens have made big gains, the fourth biggest group in the Parliament and more sizable than previously. But obviously it's still very much known for those climate and environmental policies. It's unlikely that the Greens are going to be able to take any kind of leading roles in the European Commission, for example. So how do you think that you can make an impact on those areas like multinationals and taxation?
Because, funnily enough, you heard more and more other parties campaigning on this. Suddenly the Social Democrats were very vocal also on taxation, on companies. Even the Liberals were spreading now the idea that maybe there should be a minimum income in the EU. I never heard about that when they were in government or when they were part of the coalition, but now they are changing their tune. So what I see now is that there is an opportunity to really get to a more progressive majority in the European Parliament that is tackling climate change and inequality at the same time. But I think, and this is of course the big question to the EPP, they were always trying to do a majority with the Social Democrats or with the right, with the Liberals and then another right party on economic policies. Those majorities do not exist anymore. So what is the EPP going to do? Are you going to change course, or do you think that you can keep on doing the same old because the people voted for change?
You know, we are the political group who is in favor of the taxpayers. They should pay as less as possible because they do the work.
I know you do that for the multinationals.
For the workers. No, the multinationals, you are totally right. In this area, we agree that they have to pay the same tax as in our small and medium-sized
Well, you say you agree, but for example, Ireland has an EPP Prime Minister currently, and Ireland is known essentially as a tax haven, more or less.
Yes, of course, because there is competition on the tax level. And I think that's why the European Union now started also to go into the area of taxation to see that we have a plain level field for the small and medium-sized enterprises. And, you know, the small and medium-sized enterprises pay 80% of the tax in Europe, and they employ 2/3 of the employees.
I mean, I agree with Mr. Eickhout when he says, you know, Social Democrats in Belgium, this was very clear, like Social Democrats kind of copy-pasted some of our program. But the problem, and we felt this in the streets, that people are disgusted with politics and traditional politicians. Why? Because they say, well, they'll promise us heaven on earth before the election, and just after the election they say, but nothing can be done, nothing is possible, it's competition.
At the same time, groups such as your own, the far left, often accused of wanting to kind of bring down the entire system, but then what next? Well,
the thing is, we've got a very simple principle on Europe. Like today, we've got treaties that say everything should give priority to the market, to the freedom of services, freedom of capital, and so on. And it's very simple. For us, it's very simple. For us, it's very simple. If we want economic, weirdly enough, people don't see it. Weirdly enough, people don't see it. Weirdly enough, we've got Brexit. Weirdly enough, we've got the far right coming up. I mean, you've done apparently marvelously, but the people don't understand you. This is very, very weird. At some point, you should some self-criticism, Mr. Rubik. But I think there's one point which is important. You know, we have treaties today at the European level that say priority to the freedom of capital, priority to the freedom of services. We say let's give priority to social progress and to the climate. This should be, you know, we cooperate on the European level to live better, not to live worse, right? Now, if we put freedom of market first, then we're not going to get there. Let's put people first in these treaties. So this is a very concrete proposal to cooperate on, indeed, tax evasion and other things.
But last word before we run out of time from Mr.
Can I ask a question? Because in the analysis we quite often agree, but in the solutions, unfortunately, you are working in a political group where a lot of people just are anti-EU. Can we, because we need you in order to make a progressive Europe, but your political group that you will enter now in the European Parliament has never really participated in policy making at the European level. Will that change now, or is it going to be the same old Mélenchon direction, which is criticizing but not being part of it?
I don't think that's true. I mean, the thing
with Mélenchon, it is true.
The divergence we have is first on the market.
We need you.
Yeah, but we need you for what policies? This is the matter. I mean,
it's a dangerous situation. If you go together, that will harm the SMEs and the people who really
it will not harm the SMEs.
Well, gentlemen, I'm going to just cut you off.
Not the SMEs.
I'm just going to cut you off there because we are going to take a short break. We'll come back in part 2, and absolutely we will talk about alliances of the various groups because they're going to be very important moving forward. So please do join us just a couple of minutes' time here on France 24.